Yeah, I'm Josh Elmore from Decapitation, and I play guitar.
Okay. How's the tour going so far?
Tour has been good. We're just maybe barely a week into the tour proper part of it. We had to kind of, I don't say commute, but do a couple shows on the way out before we, just because we're from San Diego. It started in Boston, just to kind of bridge the gaps there. But yeah, we about a week in, and it's going really well. Everyone's good camaraderie, and people are cool with one another, and the turnouts have been generally really good.
Good.
So cannot complain at all.
So you guys sounded great tonight.
Thank you.
Shows have been pretty solid.
Yeah, we were in Cleveland last night at their House of Blues, and then New York before that at Irving Plaza, and just turnouts have been consistently good.
Yes.
We figure it's kind of like we've spoken about this kind of this grab bag of bands on Metal Blade that are currently pretty active touring and recording, and it's the something for everyone kind of thing. But they're almost in kind of little clumps. Like there's these two bands, maybe there'll be some crossover fans, and these two bands maybe, or whatever. So it's just enough sort of common thread between a couple of the bands or groups of bands to where people might be able to get turned on to other stuff,
right,
amongst the package and everything. So yeah, it's been going pretty well.
Kind of cool when tour packages do that. They give you the
I mean it seems like certain genres you could never mix it up because everyone's super true and elite, in that. Right. So if there's some sort of corruptive element in there, people are gonna not stand for it, or make this dramatic walkout, be dicks or something. But yeah, this is working well so far.
Cool. What's life on the road like for Decapitation?
It's kind of one of those wait. Oh crap. Wait. It's that sort of every day is kind of like a lazy Sunday until it's holy crap, freak out, pedal to the floor for a few hours, and then kind of goes down a little bit.
Sure.
So it is it's fine. I cannot complain.
Sure.
Talk to me in a few weeks and I'll be complaining. But right now it's just it's early on, so we're all still kind of spry, and we can rest for now.
You guys have been a band for a long time, done a lot of tours, a lot of festivals, a lot of shows.
21 years.
Any tours or shows or festivals stand out to you as particularly special?
In the U.S., it's not as much of a festival culture over here.
Sure.
Obviously, but Bay Area Death Fest we did, I think it was late 2014. Mm-hmm. Really good. It was at the Oakland Metro. Just went off. People were crazy, and it was insanely hot. And it was just really cool. In Europe, Brutal Assault in Czech Republic, Hellfest in France, which we did that the first time this past June 2016. Was phenomenal. That was probably I could probably ask everyone, and they would say that's one of the highlights. And Brutal Assault the first time we played it in 2012, and then this last time, it's just one of those things where for whatever reason or another, everything lines up perfectly. Like everyone, not that there's great disparities in other shows where so and so played horrible or whatever. No, it's usually fine, but it's this was on point. Everyone was super pleased and played well, and the crowd responded great, and everyone could hear, and it sounded awesome. So, those are really cool. And as far as just our shows, you just have cities that you traditionally kind of do well in. We do really well in Texas, generally all over, in Denver. Fortunately, New York, Chicago. West Oregon, Seattle, all on the West Coast. So. In Florida too, strangely enough.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So your albums to me have been getting more sounding more progressive, more epic sounding, and the most recent one, and hopefully I'll butcher this here, Anthropocene Extinction.
Go!
Sounding absolutely massive. Is this a purposeful progression? Is it just kind of how it developed?
I think there's two things in play. One, we were tried to write a little more grandiose without being 8-minute songs or anything like that. And just have more of it doesn't have to be all just the entire time. I mean, yeah, there's a bit of that on the record,
sure.
But it's have these just clencher moments, you know, to have enough of those and pace them in such a way to whereas the whole of the record is like this dynamic kind of story sort of thing. I hate that sounds super stupid, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just like a bunch of track, you know?
Right.
So I think we find the past few records kind of hone that a little better than we had in earlier records. The other element is I think Dave Otero, that did our past couple of records, has his production ability and just his expertise and, you know, getting what he needs out of each person, yet being extremely easy to work with and just really meticulous, and he knows how to, reads the bands and knows, I don't want to say how far he can take it, but like, you know, he can do all the super modern, you know, extremely meticulous, clinical recording style.
Sure.
And he, you know, some bands want that. He does that for certain bands. He goes, you guys aren't really that type of band, but I'll just like do it as much as I can without sacrificing the kind of raw, like just, you know, unhinged almost, you know, because we couldn't be one of those bands that like records at half speed or does everything that's just like punch in every note kind of thing. It sounds weird, you know. I mean, we record to a click now. Thank goodness, past couple records, but and that's incredibly helpful. But yeah, I think he has a lot to do with that too, you know, and kind of pointing us in the right direction, or like taking our ideas and being like, no, or just the thing is like if he makes suggestions, he's always right.
Okay.
Don't tell him he said that. But like 85 to 90% of the time, I'll give 90% of the time, he's always right in his suggestions. But that one time he's not, just never let him forget it.
So he worked on the last two.
Yes, correct.
I mean, whatever he's doing, whatever you guys are doing with him on those, it's working. Those are both. I love your whole discography, honestly. The progression, I think you guys are at a high point right now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, that's not to disparage like anyone else we work with. Like with Billy Anderson, he's awesome. I love Billy. He's great. And like Karma and Harvest Floor that we did with him are just, it's a legend, and it's just awesome to work with him and just hear his take on what we were doing. You know, I think we kind of at the same time like decided to kind of try to tighten up everything and make it a little more compact and not try to take these sort of excursions. And I think Dave kind of helped us, you know, realize that.
Right. So maybe some of what you said applies to this next question, but given this progression and sound, more epic, you guys are still clearly a death threat band. Alluded to that. How are you able to so successfully meld those two worlds that don't necessarily seem to work together?
I think, because there's one that's just like sort of like, I don't say loose, but just kind of like the most aggressive, brutal punk you can imagine, kind of moves with, you know, sort of, especially now, like with modern death metal, it's like, unless it's a band that's trying to go for like a more old school not that I'm equating the two, but like a more simpler kind of just riffs approach. If you're not, it seems like now, if you're not that, you're quote technical. Everything else is technical. So when does technical cease to be technical? You know, it's this sort of, if everything's that way, then nothing is that way kind of thing. I don't know. I think we have people in the band, all of us, that have different tastes and kind of approaches, and we all come from different, you know, sort of just backgrounds. And the happy medium is what it is. Like our drummers, Dave, is super, you know, just very super modern, very technical, very tight. You know, everything's just, you know, kind of thing. And like Derek came from was a big black metal fan, but came from a brutal death metal background. You know? And I came from like super crazy, spazzy, kind of skronky, noisy background, but with like a lot of, you know, death metal and horribly recorded, awesome toilet bowl black metal and everything like that. You know, I love that sort of stuff. You know, and Travis, you know, all of us have very varied musical tastes in general, but Travis has a bunch of non-metal stuff that he is probably predominant or dominates his listening. So I think it's that together and our core all love and growing up with, you know, all different types of metal is kind of what kept us, you know, that single forward trajectory.
What influences, what bands in particular would you say have directly influenced your style, songwriting, guitar playing?
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with where I grew up. Not where I grew up literally, but just like how I like bands I was in and where they were located and who I was in those bands with, which I'm sure is everyone's sort of thing.
Sure.
But I was in, my first real kind of band that played out was I was 15 or 16.
Okay.
And they were with older people. They were 24, 25, and they'd been in 2 or 3 different bands. But they were much more technical without trying to be technical. They were just super busy players. So it was me just trying to keep up with these guys who were just on bass and stuff like that. So I think that helped me a lot. I was in the bands with those guys for a few years, and then they by that time I was in my maybe early 20s, and they were in their late 20s, and one of them had a kid and stuff. So their priorities, understandably changed, and my musical tastes were starting to change a little bit. To more just super abrasive, kind of grindy, chaotic, whatever.
Right.
And so I was in a band like that for a few years, and that broke up, because everyone's like, "Oh, this is going great." Oh, he doesn't want to do it anymore.
Right.
So, but yeah, I was in a bunch of bands when I was in Chicago, and that's another thing. Living there, the late '90s, mid late '90s, there was just such a, I guess the whole Skin Graft Records, no wave kind of thing.
Okay.
Being in bands with a couple of those people when they wanted to do their metal kind of thing or whatever, or just being around them and, going to their parties and seeing their other bands play, their real bands play or whatever. Just that kind of rubbed off on me, the super angular, skronky, just dissonant, very, very driving rock almost, but the guitar just, it sounds like just factory equipment, going on. So that, it's maybe not as evident in later Cattle stuff, but it definitely had a big impression on me.
Sure.
And I just kind of retained, some of that influence and just appreciation for that. So, everyone else did not come from that at all. Or, there may be one of us that has an appreciation for it to a certain extent, but everyone else is like, what is that crap? So, but I had that soft spot for it, and there's a lot of it that I still try to, subtly incorporate,
Sure. So back to the Anthropocene extinction. Mm-hmm. It's been generally well received. I think in the media I've read was on a lot of, that year was on a lot of best of lists and so on. Is it everything you guys wanted it to be? But it's out. It's been a couple of years.
I think there's never any album that's really what you want it to be.
Okay.
It's just closer to what your ideal is. And I know I've sort of made peace with the fact that nothing is ever going to be what I want it to be. But as long as you get it's just the closer you get to that. I mean, I can't complain. I mean, Otero did like I said, Dave Otero did a great job on it. So I do not want for anything in that regard as far as any improvements. Of course, there's things like, next time I wish my, whatever your instrument is, my guitar had, a little more of this, or something like that. But that's, even if, you hear both, those records like, it sounds good, but I want a little more of this, it's just that sort of thing. And no one's ever going to be satisfied. You're musicians. You're always going to pick apart what you do. But I don't know. That kind of ties into writing and stuff in the future. Like, where's that going to go? Because you usually, or bands will not base, certain, whatever they're dissatisfied with, they'll try to, amplify the good stuff and downplay whatever they didn't care for, which is, it's always going to be the case, but I don't really know. We've kind of, briefly discussed what we, down the road. It's just like, that's, we got so many more months of touring ahead, so, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it kind of thing. But, I don't.
It was basically a question a little further down my list here is what's coming up next.
Yeah,
I mean, anything? Is there anything in the early stages?
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to tie, I'm trying to tie, that question with them. I wouldn't say there's anything we're dissatisfied with at all. I think it's just we see, here's what we thought really worked.
Okay.
And where we want to go in the future with that. Once again, you could have, we've had discussions and everyone's like, that'd be a good idea. And then when it comes to time to actually writing, just toss that at the window. That could be not even the case. People's heads could get in different places between now and then. But to kind of address that, I think we want to really just obviously keep the intensity.
Right.
And that doesn't have to mean just fast all the time. That doesn't hurt. But just whatever level of speed, heaviness, whatever, technical, straightforward, just keep that level of intensity and that drive, and have just this emotional, not weeping on the floor necessarily.
Sure.
But I think a lot of the past couple records, there's been a lot of you know, heavy music's not supposed to, or I should say not supposed to, but it's supposed to be just like aggressive, you know, all the time. There isn't this sort of like, you know, I mean, there's other genres, you know, like certain black metal bands have that. It's like this sort of anguish kind of thing going on, and there's some songs on the past couple of records that definitely have that anguish sort of, you know, we just want to have like sort of a lot of emotional sort of content, but just be ripping, you know. Right. That's hard. It's kind of hard to do, you know, just to not meander, because we want to keep things compact and not go off in these odysseys where it's like, you know.
I feel passion and emotion in one of your records. But to me, as a fan, as a big fan of Guinness, what I've seen over the years is that, you know, developed from a more one-dimensional sense of emotion to a greater.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right.
Greater emotion, greater passion.
Yeah. I think as you get older, you kind of like, you may still be just as pissed off as you were, if not more, when you were younger, but you're better at, you know, kind of giving time and articulating other facets of that and how it affects you aside from just blind, I'm going to kick the doors down rage, you know what I mean?
Right. Understanding and dealing with
exactly.
more complex level.
Exactly. There's a lot more complex things that just, you know, there's this sort of, it's like a period in man's life or whatever, you kind of shed that sort of teen angst, you know, even though I think metal, us, we keep it a little longer, you know, but at the same, then there's more of like adult angst, which is more of like a, you never, hopefully don't ever get to like resignation, but it's just like this sort of fighting that kind of, you know, sort of thing. So, I think, yeah, a lot of the newer stuff, I think we, just to keep it short, like, try to keep the epic atmosphere, just lots of atmosphere, but just super, just, you know, whatever, you know, speed or heaviness or whatever that, you know, kind of ends up embodying. So.
Yeah. It's almost like on Monolith and Extinction, the last couple albums, it's like the intensity, the passion, that's still there. You've just, as a band, done a more complete job of, I mean, if you think of it like a painting of creating the background that it all fits in.
Yeah.
More detailed background.
That's true. A good, better like a setting to where like the central point still pops more, almost more, because the background is a little more rich.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about album art for a minute. It's dark and disturbing, awesome. And, some of it's even been banned on a couple of the early albums in a couple of places. What are you guys trying to say with the art?
I think the past couple of records. Well, no, actually, I'd say the last three have been really, really good at kind of like taking the Travis's lyrical, you know, kind of concepts and approach, and putting that in sort of this visual form. And the guy who does those or done all our records, Wes Benscoter, is really, really good. Those two are really good at kind of collaborating and him coming up with an amazing interpretation of Travis's lyrics and concepts for the record.
Sure. Just to play devil's advocate for a minute, do you feel like there's a point where it can go too far and risk alienating people that might not hear the message? There's a point to kind of smack you in the face with it so that you
I mean, I
think about it.
I think it's like internet and stuff, right? I mean, like the way it is now, it's like it's hard for me to believe that people are shocked by anything anymore. Sure. You know, so there's stuff that people are like, oh, that's awful. I'm like, it's not bad at all. Have you seen this? Oh my god. Yeah, that is. I will admit, this is terrible. You know, it's like, I mean, people I work with, like if they off chance see like one of our album covers, like, well, that's awful. I'm like, really? That's not that bad at all. It's not. I've seen, you know. I mean, I don't want to just trot this example out there, but I'm like, well, there's this one record with a guy with a broom stuck where it's a real crime photo, you know, like horrible true crime kind of stuff.
Sure.
And I'm not going to bring that up, you know, to them, but it's like, I don't, as far as going too far, I don't know. This the ones that got, like, Humanure was banned in, like, there's some stores in the U.S. that wouldn't sell it. So we did, which I kind of regret. that did the safe cover.
Okay.
It was just like the pastoral kind of background or whatever. It's like, I don't know. We got some shit for that. You know, they said, "Oh, you're going to change your cover to try," you know, which came from people who've obviously sold lots of records, so they don't have to think about that. But and then Third Man in Europe had some trouble with that. SPV, one of the bigger distributors there, wouldn't do it. Which, I mean, it was gory, but I've seen 10 times worse. And that's one of those things. It's almost like this sort of sliding scale, and whoever's looking at it at the time, it's like, no.
Would it even be a problem now?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It doesn't seem to have been a problem because I think Metal Blade in Europe reissued it, or like repressed it or something like that, and there was never a problem. So I think that was, you know.
I think you already talked about this for the most part. You mentioned tell me the name again. Who does the artwork?
Wes Benscoter?
Wes Benson.
Yeah.
Okay, and what's that process like? He works with Travis, you said?
Yeah, we have, like, as far as by say we, I mean the rest of us, everyone but Travis, don't usually have any contact with him.
Okay.
Not that we're like, you know, walled off from or anything, but that's like, he's very much the conceptual guy, Travis and him. So he kind of presents us with the idea, like, what do you think? Does that sound cool? Okay, all right, well, we're going to go for it. You know, there's only been like a couple times where he's presented stuff where I'm like, oh, that sounds... I mean, Wes will do an amazing job with whatever he's given.
Sure.
But most of the time, they were just like, it's, oh, yeah, that's cool. And they just kind of run with it and, you know, have their little sort of powwow on there. And then we get this, you know, with maybe a couple tiny little changes, this amazing piece. Like, when we got Anthro's, like, that cover, there was like maybe, make this tiny bit more detailed and maybe move this out just a hair. But it wasn't anything like, I don't like the guy in the center. I don't like this. It wasn't like that. It was just this little nitpicky stuff, which is awesome. That's your starting point. You know, there's no big critique on some where you have to like throw it out or just, you know, has this big tug of war on, you know, what it's going to be. So and I think of our albums, that Anthro and Harvest Floor's I love that cover. That's one of my favorites. And then Humanure, because it's just absurd and classic in its absurdity. That's probably my favorites.
Yeah.
To say.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Change of pace here a